The first man went down so fast, it almost didn't register. One elbow, a sound like a branch snapping in winter, and his legs folded. The second never saw it coming. A sharp, brutal throw sent him crashing through the screen door in a tangle of limbs and splintered wood. Blood, broken glass, silence. All of it happened before the peaceful afternoon air even had time to respond. But that wasn't where it started. Let me take you back. Just 1 hour earlier. It was the kind of afternoon that tricks you into thinking everything's alright with the world. Midweek quiet. The air warm, still. The sun filtering through the oak trees above my grandmother's porch, casting soft shadows that shifted like slow water across the old floorboards. It smelled like flowers and wood and dust. Not the kind of place where violence lives. Her name was Elelenina. My grandmother. A name that always sounded like an echo. She sat on her porch in a wicker chair older than I was, sipping sweet tea from a sweating glass, exactly 3 ice cubes inside, as always. She had that cardigan on again, the one with the faded pink and blue flowers. It was still too warm for cardigans, but that didn't matter. She never went a day without it. Around her, her porch bloomed, a chaos of pots and color. Petunias and marigolds spilled over terracotta like they had no interest in boundaries. A single sunflower stood stubborn and proud in one corner, refusing to die, even though the season had told it to. Above her, the wind chimes moved gently. Normally, that sound felt like summer, like sticky popsicles and skinned knees. Today, though, it was off. Discordant. A wrong note in the song of a perfect afternoon. I noticed it. So did Marcus. My cousin had pulled up that morning in his usual way, behind the wheel of a dusty pickup that smelled like coffee, old tools, and something heavier. Marcus didn't speak much. Never really did. Not since Iraq. His words had gotten quieter, but his presence didn't need volume. He carried himself like a boulder you didn't realize was in your path until you ran into it. It was his idea to repaint the fence. Said it had turned from white to something like nicotine beige, and that Elelenina deserved better. That was Marcus. He never said he loved you. He just brought a truck, a brush, and a gallon of paint. We'd only gotten through 2 panels when something shifted. I remember it so clearly. The moment. Elelenina laughed, a full, warm, deep laugh, the kind that starts in the belly and spills into the air like a hymn. She was watching a squirrel try and fail, for the 3rd time, to leap onto the bird feeder. That laugh was magic. It cracked something open in me. Made me think everything might really be okay. Then the engine came. Low. Wrong. Like the growl of something hunting. Marcus stopped painting. The brush hung forgotten in his hand, dripping white onto the grass. I looked up. The street was mostly empty. Quiet. But that sound didn't belong. Then I saw it, the black SUV. No license plate. No dealership sticker. No neighborhood logo like the other cars had. Just matte black paint that seemed to eat light. It rolled down the road slowly, deliberately, until it came to a stop right in front of Elelenina's driveway. The engine idled, a quiet, menacing thrum. Marcus didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just laid his brush across the paint can, wiped his hands on a rag, and stood there. Still. Watching. The front passenger door opened. A man stepped out. Mid-40s, maybe 50. Polo shirt tucked into stiff khakis. Sunglasses that didn't belong in this neighborhood. In his hand, a clipboard. The kind people use when they want to feel important. Before his door even shut, the driver's side opened. The second man was bigger. Bulkier. Same sunglasses, same khakis. But this one had a holster. High on the hip. Not hidden. Not shy. And they started walking, slow, synchronized, like they'd rehearsed it. Up the driveway. Straight for the porch. For Elelenina. They didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just marched like the sidewalk owed them something. Marcus shifted, not much, but enough to block the steps. Afternoon, clipboard said. His voice was flat. Dry. Like chalk. We're with the HOA Enforcement Division. We need to speak to the property owner regarding outstanding violations. Evelina blinked. Her tea glass trembled slightly in her hand. You mean me? She asked. Clipboard checked the paper like it held truth. Evelina Vance? Yes. You've been served 3 prior notices for noncompliance. Today we're here to execute a final compliance order. The silence that followed felt like a held breath. Then he said it. This property has been marked for removal. The words didn't make sense at first. This property has been marked for removal. Not fined. Not cited. Removed. Like it was a stain. I took a half step forward, not even realizing I had. The porch felt smaller suddenly. The sunlight colder. Removal? I asked. What the hell does that even mean? The larger man spoke. His name tag said Graves, though it didn't look real. His voice matched the name, heavy, deliberate, dangerous. Unauthorized porch items. Unapproved decorative elements. Failure to maintain visual harmony. He said it like it was math. Unemotional. Unavoidable. Evelina glanced around her porch like she was seeing it for the first time. The chipped sunflower pot, the wind chimes, her little brass mailbox with the crooked flag. My plants? She asked. Her voice was too soft. My wind chimes? Clipboard man flipped a page with a practiced flick of his wrist. He didn't even look up. Non-regulation chimes exceeding approved decibel limits. Excessive uncatalogued floral installations. Non-conforming mailbox structure. And, he added, letting it hang for effect, unauthorized lawn statuary. Lawn gnomes? I muttered. This is about damn gnomes? They didn't respond. Because to them, this wasn't about gnomes. It was about control. Then Marcus moved. It wasn't a step, it was a shift. His whole weight centered. His hands loose at his sides, rags still in one. His voice, when it came, was calm. Too calm. You got a court order for that? Clipboard turned to him like he just noticed him for the first time. That was their second mistake. Graves flexed his hand near the holster. Just a twitch, but Marcus clocked it. His eyes narrowed. Not angry. Just focused. Calculating. We're authorized under HOA Statute 14b, Graves said. Subsection 7. Final Enforcement Protocol. That's not a warrant, Marcus replied. His voice was still low, but now there was something else in it, a warning. You're not setting foot on this porch without a judge's signature. And you know it. Clipboard didn't like that. He took a step forward. Not fast, but close enough to cross some invisible line. If the resident fails to comply voluntarily, he said, we are authorized to initiate forced removal. That includes belongings. That includes occupants. He looked at Evelina as he said it. And that was the last straw. Her fingers clutched the arm of the chair. The glass in her hand trembled, but didn't spill. I saw something shift in her eyes, fear, yes, but something else too. Marcus took a breath. It wasn't loud, but it was the kind of breath people take before something breaks. Then Graves added the final insult. Non-cooperation at this stage, he said with a smirk, can lead to unfortunate health consequences. Especially for elderly residents. That's when time stopped. Evelina's hand dropped the glass. It hit the wood and rolled, sweat still clinging to the sides. The wind chimes stirred. Off-key. Uneasy. Marcus looked at Graves. Then Clipboard. And he said it? Just one word. No. It wasn't loud. But it landed like thunder. Clipboard tried to recover. Are you interfering with HOA enforcement officers, son? Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. Graves moved first. A flash of black from his side pouch, not a gun, but a stun baton. It crackled to life in his hand, blue sparks biting the air. Final warning, Graves said, stepping forward. Back off. And that's when it happened. The baton arced toward Marcus's chest. And Marcus moved. Not like a man in a fight. Like a man ending one. The baton sliced toward Marcus, a hiss of blue static, the sound of intent-turned weapon. It connected. Just a glancing blow across his forearm, but enough to send a jolt through muscle and bone. I saw his jaw tighten. He grunted, but didn't retreat. He didn't scream. He didn't stagger. It wasn't pain that filled his eyes. It was clarity. His left hand shot out, clamping around Graves' wrist before the baton could strike again. Fingers like a vice. Graves' eyes widened, surprise then fear. Then Marcus twisted. The sound was horrifying. A wet pop, unnatural. Ligaments tearing, a joint dislocating. Graves shrieked. It was sharp, high, desperate, the kind of sound that strips away pretense. The baton dropped from his hand and bounced once, blue light fading like a dying signal. Marcus wasn't finished. His elbow came forward with no wind-up, a quick, brutal motion. The point of bone met Graves' nose with a sound like crushing wet gravel. Blood erupted, spraying across the porch rail and the fresh white paint on Marcus's shirt. Graves dropped like someone had yanked his spine out. Boneless. Done. The porch, seconds ago just a place for sweet tea and sun, had become a war zone. Elenina gasped, one hand over her mouth, the other gripping the arm of her chair like it might keep the world from flying apart. I couldn't move. My brain screamed do something, but my body stayed rooted, locked in the moment. Marcus looked down at Graves, who moaned faintly, trying to make sense of his broken face and ruined arm. But Marcus wasn't looking for a finish. He was already turning. Clipboard had frozen. A half step back, mouth open, gaze flicking between Marcus and the body on the porch. The smugness was gone. Now just shock and fear. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved. 3 long strides and he closed the distance. Clipboard reached for his belt, too slow, too panicked. Marcus didn't let him finish. He grabbed the man by his shirt and waistband, lifted. Like it was nothing. With a grunt he turned, using Clipboard's own momentum. His boots left the porch. I watched, stunned, as Clipboard's body sailed through the air. It wasn't graceful. Arms flailing, one shoe coming off mid-flight. He hit the porch railing hard, but it didn't stop him. The screen door exploded inward as his shoulder crashed into the frame. Hinges snapped, the metal screen tore like paper, and then he was gone, swallowed by the interior of the house. Inside, the crash. Wood, glass, furniture, all at once. Then silence. Marcus stood there for a second. Still. His chest rising and falling. His hands relaxed again. I stepped forward, numb, just in time to see him cross the broken doorway. He stepped over the wreckage without pause, crunching glass beneath his boots. I followed him, hesitant, through the jagged hole where the screen door used to be. Inside, it was chaos. The coffee table was shattered, glass glittering across the rug like snow. A leg of the table had snapped clean through. One of Elenina's ceramic fruit bowls, the one she'd had since I was a kid, was shattered against the far wall. And there, amid the wreckage, lay Clipboard, moaning, curled around himself like a dying animal. Blood dripped from a gash on his temple. One eye was swelling shut. He tried to move. To reach. His hand crept toward a large shard of glass, fingers twitching. Marcus stepped forward and planted his boot, hard, on the man's hand, pinning it to the carpet. Clipboard gasped, eyes wide. The glass was just inches from his fingers. "You stay down," Marcus said. His voice was calm. Deadly calm. "Count yourself lucky. I only broke his nose and her table." He looked down at him for a moment longer. Not gloating. Just making sure he understood. Then Marcus stepped back, the moment passed, and the sound of sirens grew closer, slicing through the air outside like warning bells for what was about to descend. The sirens were louder now. Close. The pulsing red and blue light began to flicker against the shattered doorframe. Marcus stood just inside, breathing steady, eyes scanning, not for threats anymore, but for consequences. His face was unreadable. The fight had drained out of him, replaced by something heavier. Not regret. Not relief. Something quieter. He stepped back onto the porch, careful to avoid the still moaning body of Graves, who now lay curled near the railing, one arm folded unnaturally beneath him. I turned to Elenina. She hadn't moved much. Still in her chair. Her hand gripped the armrest so tight her knuckles had gone pale. But her eyes, they were clear again. I called 911, she said. Her voice cracked, but it didn't shake. Soon as that man pulled the stun gun. Told them they need 2 ambulances. And a lawyer. A half-smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Even now, she was thinking 3 moves ahead. Then the sheriff's cruisers pulled into the driveway. 2 of them. Tires biting gravel, doors swinging open before the engines had even stopped. The first deputy out, tall, mid-40s, sharp, scanned the porch, the damage, the blood, the bodies. He didn't go for his weapon. He went for his voice. Marcus Vance? He called, stepping forward with purpose but not threat. Marcus nodded once. I'm Deputy Miller, he said. My brother, he served with you. Mosul. 2007. A flicker of recognition passed through Marcus's eyes. He gave the deputy a small nod. Yeah. I remember him. Miller looked around. His gaze stopped on the stun baton, still lying beside the porch step, its casing cracked. He picked it up with gloved fingers, held it to the light. This is military grade, he muttered. And definitely not part of any standard HOA kit. Behind him, the second deputy was already moving through the house, checking on clipboard, or whoever he really was, now groaning on the floor, blood on his lips, muttering half-coherent threats that sounded less convincing by the second. Miller didn't waste time. He called it in. Dispatch, update incident report. 2 male suspects. Impersonating HOA enforcement. 1 is injured. Both in custody. Requesting EMS, transport, and notify local fraud division. He looked back at Marcus. You okay? Marcus gave a nod. She is, he said, glancing at Elenina. The paramedics arrived seconds later. Their calm, controlled chaos filled the porch and house, checking vitals, splinting limbs, wheeling out the bodies. Clipboard was strapped down. Graves whimpered as they lifted him. I caught the moment where Graves, blood dried on his cheek, tried to speak. Maybe a threat. Maybe a plea. But Marcus didn't look at him. Not once. As the ambulances rolled out, lights off now, the neighborhood began to stir. One by one doors opened. Neighbors emerged, some still in house slippers, some filming from porches. Confusion. Whispers. A few knowing nods. And then something strange happened. An old woman, I think her name was Mrs. Gable, started clapping. Slowly. Deliberately. A sound out of place, surreal, yet somehow fitting. Clap. 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 Others joined. Not many. But enough. Not for show. For solidarity. Elenina stood slowly, her joints stiff but her spine straight. She looked out at the crowd. Then down at the broken glass. The ruined door. The blood still wet on her steps. They thought they could scare me, she said quietly. Thought I was just some old lady with a porch full of flowers. She looked at Marcus. Turns out I have better protection than their whole damn handbook. That night, the video footage, captured by a neighbor's smart doorbell, hit the internet. Within 24 hours, it had millions of views. And within 72, the truth came out. Clipboard and Graves weren't HOA. They were con men. Fake credentials. Fake enforcement orders. Real weapons. Real threats. And real charges. Multiple counts of fraud, impersonation, elder intimidation, and assault. But the video didn't just show the violence. It showed something else. What happens when the wrong people pick the wrong porch? The trial was almost boring compared to what led to it. No explosions. No shouting. Just paperwork, footage, testimony, and a silent room that watched every frame of Marcus breaking a man's nose to protect his grandmother's porch. The prosecution tried to shift blame, of course. Suggested excessive force. Raised eyebrows at the violence. But they didn't have a leg to stand on. Not with the video, not with the witnesses, not with the mountain of evidence. The moment Marcus took the stand, the room changed. He sat there in a plain shirt, calloused hands folded. No suit. No fanfare. Just calm, collected truth. They weren't real, he said. They didn't have a warrant. They threatened my grandmother. They stepped into her house. He paused. That was their last mistake. No one objected. The jury took 3 hours. Not guilty on all counts for Marcus. Guilty on multiple felonies for the impostors, whose real names, as it turned out, were Darren Rugg and Mitchell Hale. Neither had a shred of real authority. Both were convicted and sentenced. 8 years combined. Not enough, some said. But it was something. The reaction from the public was seismic. The video went from viral to national news. HOA groups across the state were forced to issue public statements disavowing unauthorized enforcement initiatives. Community boards suddenly remembered due process. Neighborhood watch groups sprang up, this time led by actual residents, not self-appointed warlords with clipboards. Ella Lenina didn't bask in the attention. She never wanted it. But she did read the letters. Hundreds of them. People who saw themselves in her, quiet, rule-following homeowners who'd been bullied, harassed, intimidated for the crime of growing the wrong flowers or hanging wind chimes an inch too long. She kept those letters in a shoebox under her bed. When she felt tired, she'd pull one out, read a few lines, and smile. As for Marcus, he went quiet again. Declined interviews. Ignored the press. But something changed in him. He started spending more time down at the Veterans Center. Not leading. Just being there. Listening. Helping. Like always, doing what mattered, not what was loud. A week after the trial, we replaced the coffee table. We found a craftsman in town, old guy who worked with reclaimed wood. When we told him who it was for, he didn't charge us. Just nodded, took the order, and burned a message into the edge of the oak before delivering it himself. Don't mess with her house. Ella Lenina cried when she saw it. Not just from the memory of the broken one, but from knowing that someone out there had understood. Time passed. The porch got fixed. The plants grew back. The wind chimes were rehung, same spot, same song. Sundays became tradition again. Me, Marcus, Ella Lenina, sweet tea, slow conversation. The kind of quiet that feels earned. And then, one morning, she was gone. Peacefully. No drama. Just sleep. The funeral was full. Family, yes. But also strangers. People who'd watched her story and made the drive. People who'd seen in her something worth standing up for. After the service, I found Marcus on the porch. Sitting in her old chair. Rocking it gently. Hands resting on his knees. She was the real hero, he said softly. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We just sat there. The oak above us whispering. The porch warm under our feet. The new table between us, sturdy and quiet. And sometimes, even now, when I sit there alone, I feel it, like there's a second message etched into that wood. Not with fire. But with memory. Justice doesn't always need a badge. Sometimes it just needs a porch. And someone who refuses to back down.